During this time, I was still working at the daycare and barely making ends meet. Emma was a good baby, but daycare work doesn't pay much, even when you can bring your child with you. I was constantly worried about money, though I never regretted leaving. About 6 weeks ago, something unexpected happened. I got a call from a woman named Patricia who said she was Kenneth's sister. I had never met her or even heard Kenneth mention her. She asked if we could meet for coffee because she had some things to tell me about her brother. Patricia lived about 2 hours away and had driven down specifically to talk to me. She was maybe 45, worked as a nurse, and seemed nervous when we first sat down. She started by apologizing for not reaching out sooner, saying she had only recently heard about our divorce. She told me that Kenneth had been married once before, about 15 years ago. His first wife was named Sandra, and Patricia said the marriage ended very similarly to ours. Sandra had also been much younger than Kenneth, had no family support, and had gotten pregnant within a few years of marriage. According to Patricia, Kenneth had used the same financial system with Sandra. Everything split down the middle, strict categorization of expenses, and complete separation of personal costs. When Sandra got pregnant, she struggled with the same issues I had faced. She couldn't afford the pregnancy expenses on her income, and Kenneth refused to help beyond what he considered legitimate baby costs. Sandra had also left while pregnant, though she waited until after the baby was born. The child, a son named Tyler, was now 14 years old. Kenneth paid court-ordered child support but had minimal contact with Tyler. Patricia said Kenneth acted like the child didn't exist most of the time. Patricia had kept in touch with Sandra over the years and had watched her struggle as a single mother. She said she regretted not speaking up during that marriage, which was why she wanted to warn me about what might be coming next. She explained that Kenneth had contested Sandra's child support case for almost 2 years. He hired expensive lawyers and dragged out every aspect of the proceedings. He claimed his income was lower than it actually was, disputed every expense Sandra requested, and generally made the process as difficult and expensive as possible. The most disturbing part was that Patricia believed Kenneth enjoyed the legal battle. She said he saw it as a way to punish Sandra for leaving and to prove that there were consequences for not following his rules. He had told Patricia that Sandra needed to learn that her decisions had costs. Patricia brought copies of some court documents from Sandra's case, though she wasn't supposed to have them. The pattern was identical to what I was experiencing. Months of delays, disputes over income calculations, and Kenneth's lawyers arguing that the mother had chosen single parenthood and should bear the financial consequences. She also told me something that Sandra had shared with her years later. During their marriage, Kenneth had actually made much more money than Sandra realized. He had multiple business accounts and investments that he never mentioned. The financial stress Sandra experienced wasn't because they couldn't afford her pregnancy expenses. It was because Kenneth chose not to help, even though he easily could have. Patricia suspected the same thing was happening with me. She said Kenneth's business had grown significantly in recent years and that he had mentioned several large contracts and new clients at family gatherings. The income information he provided to the court was likely much lower than his actual earnings. I asked Patricia why she was telling me this now, and why she hadn't helped Sandra more at the time. She said watching Sandra struggle for years while Kenneth lived comfortably had bothered her, but she hadn't known how to help or what she could do. When she heard about me through their mother, she decided she couldn't stay quiet again. Patricia offered to help me get better legal representation. She said she had some savings and would be willing to contribute toward hiring a lawyer who could properly investigate Kenneth's finances. She also said Sandra might be willing to testify about the pattern of behavior if it would help my case. I was overwhelmed by the information and the offer of help. I had assumed I was the first person Kenneth had treated this way, and learning about Sandra made me realize this wasn't about me personally. It was a deliberate pattern. Patricia also warned me that Kenneth might try to make contact with Emma as she got older, not because he wanted a relationship, but because he enjoyed having control and leverage over people. She said he had done this with Tyler, occasionally showing up or sending gifts when Sandra was doing well, then disappearing again when it was inconvenient. I decided to take Patricia up on her offer of help with legal fees. We hired a private investigator to look into Kenneth's business finances and found evidence that his reported income was indeed much lower than his actual earnings. He had been moving money between accounts and delaying payments to clients to reduce his taxable income during the divorce proceedings. With better legal representation and the financial evidence, my lawyer was able to push for a more realistic child support arrangement. Kenneth's new lawyers tried to claim that the investigation was harassment, but the judge wasn't impressed with the obvious income manipulation. The final support order was 3 times what Kenneth's original lawyer had offered. Not enough to make us wealthy, but enough that I could afford to work less and spend more time with Emma, or go back to school to get better job training. Kenneth was furious about the outcome. He sent several angry messages through his lawyer about how I was being greedy and trying to punish him for my own choices. His lawyer eventually told him to stop communicating about anything beyond the required child support payments. Patricia stayed in touch throughout the legal process and has become something like family to Emma and me. She visits every few weeks and has made it clear that Emma has at least one person from Kenneth's side who cares about her well-being. Sandra also reached out after Patricia told her about our situation. She offered advice about dealing with Kenneth long term and warned me about some of his tactics for avoiding or delaying support payments.